So no one expected Joker 2 to flop the way that it did. Of course, I'm saying that in sarcasm font. The movie, once it was announced as a musical, and I just kind of knew that it was going to do what it was going to do. A lot of people were saying that the film was unnecessary, that the first Joker didn't need a sequel. But it had me thinking, what movies out there do need a sequel? Like, what sequels have we been waiting on? And so I made like a quick little list of movies, my personal favorites that I believe need to go ahead and have a sequel made. Some of these movies I've been waiting on for a decade plus. Some of them are ideas that actually exist but got shut down for other one reason or another. And some are just fun. So the first one on my list is actually Hancock. Yes, the Will Smith superhero movie. So a lot of people didn't really like that movie. And to me, I think that the movie itself and the universe that was created by that movie actually held a lot of potential. And honestly, like that Hancock movie is basically like an origin story for an actual superhero movie. And with that said, it's like we never actually have quite seen Will Smith full on superhero costume out there fighting crime, saving the day, and getting like an actual genuine sequel to Hancock where that's the case. I think would be like a complete banger. Like I would love to see that movie come to fruition. Now, will that happen at this point? Probably not. We probably will never see a sequel to Hancock, but that's one of the movies that I always watch and I was like, man, the potential of this is great. But I think that the execution of the story gets weird like halfway through to where it's like, oh, it turns into kind of this weird love story and I don't know. It's just not what I wanted it to be from a superhero film, but as an origin story, like setting up a universe in terms of future movies, I think that Hancock actually would have been a really great franchise, but unfortunately, we never got that. Another one on my list is actually Constantine. Now, I actually know that they're making a sequel to this, and I think Keanu Reeves is attached to it. And for those of you who don't know, Constantine's actually based on the DC comic universe. So there's actually like a lot of lore and a lot of story connections that they could build off of with that. And I would actually hope that James Gunn, with his new DC universe, would find a way to work Constantine into the new DC. That would be fantastic because if you've seen the first Constantine with Keanu Reeves, to me personally, it's one of my all-time personal favorite movies, period. I would love to see a sequel to that movie. And like I said, there's rumors that there's a sequel in the works, maybe. And you hear that a lot with movies. You hear that a lot, but I hope that that movie actually comes to fruition. I would go watch that in the theaters. Up next on my list is actually Jumper. So Jumper starred Hayden Christensen, which the guy who played Anakin Skywalker slash Darth Vader. And that movie is really fun. It's a really fun movie that sets up all these really cool like plot lines and details. And the movie itself basically ends on a cliffhanger. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going into spoiler territory in case you haven't seen Jumper. Jumper basically is about this guy who has the ability to teleport across, like basically to anywhere he wants to. He could just think about a location and he could teleport there. And throughout the movie, he's being chased by Samuel Jackson, who works for an organization that is essentially trying to capture all these people with powers because they believe that they're dangerous. Action sequences are pretty awesome in that film. But the twist at the end is that Hayden Christensen character realizes or learns that his mother is actually the lead of this organization, which is crazy because she knows about her son's ability, but it's kind of like this weird, like double agent kind of thing. And the movie ends with like basically her being like, oh, I'm going to come get you. And like, lets him go off and run off. And that's how the movie ends. And it leaves us on this really like good cliffhanger where it's like, man, I would love to see that universe get expanded. There's another movie that came out around that same time called Push that featured Chris Evans. And in my head, like I thought that they were almost the same universe, that Push and Jumper actually took place in the same universe. And they actually still could. But those are two movies that I think that were cool, superpower based movies that had really good plot lines, good acting, solid action sequences that just didn't do well enough for these movies to like, for the studios to be like, oh, let's throw a bunch more money at that. But Jumper and Push. In my opinion, if I had the opportunity, I would do a Jumper sequel or a Push sequel, and I would combine those two movies into a universe and make it a whole thing. I think that would be brilliant. If you haven't seen Jumper, if you're into action movies, go check it out. It's like one of those movies that's very fun, very well written, good acting. I like Jumper a lot. But anyways, up next on my list is actually going to be Chronicle. So now Chronicle is also another superhero movie that's been out in the streets for a while, written by Max Landis, and they actually did write a sequel to Chronicle. You can actually find the script online. It got leaked a while back, and to be honest, like the script for Chronicle 2 is insane. Like it's one of those things where it's like you could tell that the studios were going to throw a bunch of money at this. This was going to probably be like $100 million film that they were going to put a bunch of money into. They were talking about robots and all kinds of mass world destruction and et cetera and so forth. But the first movie ended on such a cool note to where the main character just kind of flies off into the horizon. Like, but in the sequel, and once again, we're getting the spoiler territory, even though this movie probably will never come out. In the sequel, it turns out that the main character, Matt, does become a superhero, and he's like working with government agencies across the world, and he's basically using his abilities to try to do good in the wake of what happened in the first movie. But then one of the peoples who got killed in the first movie during the destruction of the first movie decides that they want to get revenge against Matt. And so they create like these robots that are like designed to take out Matt, and it ends up becoming like this whole like kind of like massive superhero movie. Like I said, if this movie would have came out, it would have been like $100 million budget. But basically what happened was that Max Landis got caught in the Me Too wave. And that's basically why you don't hear about Max Landis anymore, or why you hear about a sequel to Chronicle. And to be honest, like despite all that, Max Landis is one of my all-time favorite writers. I love most of the work that he does. And it's sad to see that this movie never came to fruition because of what happened. So, Chronicle 2, that's one of those movies that I just really, really wish would happen. But, chances are it will not, unfortunately. But the number one movie on my list of movies that need a sequel, damn it, please, why, is District 9. Now, if you haven't seen District 9, which is Neil Blomkamp's first movie into his, like this movie basically launched his entire career, go see this movie. This movie is fantastic. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. If you don't know, spoiler area, talking about District 9, it's basically about an alien race that comes to Earth, and essentially over the years they get stuck there. Like their spaceship gets stuck in, I think, southern Africa. And so essentially the world government builds a city for these aliens, which are called prawns, and they're kind of treated differently and discriminated upon. And then one of the main character actually goes into the city to do some research because his job is like an insurance kind of guy, like kind of navigating the area. And he discovers a goo in the midst of a skirmish. He discovers a goo, and that goo shoots him in the face. And what ends up happening is that over the course of the movie, he slowly turns into one of the aliens. And the movie ends with him helping the aliens escape in the giant ship. Now, near the end of the movie, during the conversation of one of the other characters, he literally says I have to leave. How long is it going to take for me to come back? Because I have my family here and I want to come back. And the alien says it's going to take about 3 years. So the movie kind of sets up the idea that 3 years later, we're going to get a District 9 sequel, District 10 or whatever it's going to be called. But I believe that District 9 came out in 2012? No, sorry, 2009 is when District 9 came out. And maybe that's a joke, right? Maybe they are going to release this movie because they actually have announced that they are working on a sequel to District 9 at this point. But I have a hard time actually believing them. But this was until I actually went to New Zealand for my honeymoon and actually went to go check out Weta Workshops down there. And when I was down there, Weta Workshops is basically Peter Jackson's movie studio. Peter Jackson was the executive producer on District 9, and he helped Neil Blomkamp make that movie. And if you go to Weta Workshop, they have all kinds of District 9 stuff still up, like prawn figures, toys, merchandise, set designs, all kinds of stuff. And they kind of hinted at the fact that, yes, we are working on a sequel to District 9, and that will be coming in some way, shape, or form over the next few years. Now, if they ever do manage to get a sequel to District 9 out, I will flip my lid. Like I said, that's if I had to make like a top 10 movie list, that movie would be on there, hands down. District 9 is easily one of my favorite movies of all time, and one of the most anticipated movies for me in terms of like sequels and movies that I really want. So Peter Jackson, Neil Blomkamp, if you guys are watching this, which I know you aren't, give us that District 9 sequel, please, please, begging of you, begging of you. But anyways, those are 5 movies. I think I said 6 that I would love to see a sequel for. But I would love to know, what movies do you think should have a sequel, and what movies do you think shouldn't have had a sequel? I definitely think Joker 2 should be on that list because, yikes. I'm not even gonna do a review of that movie, but just know that it's kind of wild. That's the best way to put it. But I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to this channel. I got more videos coming your way. Y'all stay safe. Peace out.